the city like a
More classics.
in the city like a tourist, taking pictures for forever. Just me and music on a transit. I could ride this out forever. I'm in the city like a tourist. In the city like a tourist. I'm a Virgo, not a.
Hi, and thank you again for joining us in this session, this season of Sunday Sitdowns, which is pretty much a bunch of us creatives critiquing films and TV shows of all genres. Please say hello to our critics, Roe, Jessica, Gabby. Welcome back, ladies. Before we begin, I know this will air in July, but while we're in the month of June, happy Juneteenth, happy Pride, happy Caribbean Heritage Month, happy We Don't Give a Fuck, happy Black and Proud,
happy Black Music Month,
happy Black Music Month. You know, happy just being happy month. Like, I don't know. We're just going to be happy this damn month. It's all right. I would also like to invite everyone listening and watching to an awesome virtual convention the second weekend of July, July 8th through the 10th, for all blurs, sci-fi, comics, anime, cosplay loving weirdos, and to all those who support them. This is for you. If I'm talking about Blurred City Com. It's an NYC convention, but because of the pandemic, it's virtual for the second time around. But all of the fun and the connections are still there. So please visit blurredcitycom.com and support a Black business. And while we are online, after you purchase your Blurred City ticket, make sure you go to my handmade only Etsy page to order something handmade just for you and to include in your convention visit. Now, back to why we're here. The rundown, as we all are aware, we will each have 2 uninterrupted minutes to express our thoughts, opinions, and critique on the selected films and shows. So let's get started. The first film is The Last Dance on Netflix. And I was going to let Jessica go first, but she just went black for a second. So I'm going to... I guess, do you guys want to go first or what?
I'm good. You can go.
Okay, and Gabby...
I'll go first because
okay.
I think I have the least amount of watch time with this.
Just
so again, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining Summer Sit-Downs. And The Last Dance. So as much as I really enjoyed the sport of basketball, I grew up in a household with mostly, I was the only girl. I have 2 other brothers and grew up surrounded by boys in basketball. And I also played basketball too, like in middle school. But my interest in this, as much as now as an adult, it was okay. I know the backstory of Michael Jordan. So I got through the first 2 episodes, so with the backstory of The Last Dance, building up the life of Michael Jordan, one of the greatest to do it on the court. And one of the quotes that I really enjoyed and I liked when Larry Bird was talking about it, and I think it's probably the first episode, he was like, yeah, Michael Jordan, that was God himself on the court. Like, no one could compare to him when he was going through. And I was like, yeah, because as melanated beings, we are God beings. So I got through the first 2 episodes. Much love to the city of Chicago. I just recently came back from Chicago about a week ago to visit my good friend and Jody and her fam. So what's up, everyone? But yeah,
make sure Jody watching though. Yeah, make sure Jody watching.
the Johnson gang. So what's up to the Johnson gang holding it down in Chicago? So I love the city of Chicago, But mad love to Chicago Bulls. I am originally do or die forever gonna be, a Knicks fan, original Knickerbockers for life. That orange or blue. But yeah, I enjoyed the documentaries. This time around, the aspect of it is more like the techniques of shooting is more, our modern style technique shooting. I have watched previous Jordan documentaries and basketball documentaries. on VHS. If y'all remember what VHS is, you know that tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Shout out to the
Been
original
there,
VHS.
done that. Don't ever want to go back.
The original DVR.
You know, exactly, the original VHS tapes to watch them different basketballs, documentaries and old games and so forth. But yeah, I would say for me, being that I'm mid between, I'm gonna give this about a 3.5, just because my interest nowadays is not totally fully strong back in sports. But I don't mind watching whenever I get the chance. But shout out to the Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest. The team, Scottie Pippen, Phil Jackson, I believe, was the coach at that time. So got a little bit of something back then. So yeah, Dennis Rodman. The original bad. I say original bad crazy man. That's Dennis Rodman. With his own, eccentric style, and it was just like, what is he gonna do next? That Rodman factor. So. Yeah, that's my take. 3.75 per se, okay. But because I'm not really too much into the game of basketball now. But yeah, that's how. All right.
Well, I want to go next because I want because I got a lot to say. But I'm not going to go over everything. But I'm just going to go over the key points that I wanted to speak on. So, what a trip down memory lane this was. I saw The Last Dance as a coincidental gem. It had everything and everybody basketball. I do notice people keep referring to it as the Michael Jordan story, but I disagree with that. It was a Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls story. ESPN did a great job. I gave it a 4.2. The time period for the culture was inspiring. That inspirational seed was planted and fed a lot of people. The reoccurring message that I kept getting reminded of was, I know my worth. Over and over and over, I know my worth. Jerry Curse, A Dangerous Case of Little Man Syndrome. Dennis Rodman, Hot and Cold. I can't stand to see grown-ass men who always need a babysitter for himself. Not his kids, but for his damn self. I mean, Rodman was a beast in the game, but outside of the court, he was reckless. And I use the word reckless because of his choice of chosen profession. Unfortunately for him, he haven't shown us all that he could have done because of his immaturity. I don't think we know Rodman's real story, not because, he needs subtitles, but because he's still in it, whatever the it is, and it could be anything that he chooses not to heal and grow from. Scottie Pippen, the face of grace, class, humility, with a gorgeous smile. Whatever toothpaste he's using, I'm buying it. He has a new book coming out, actually, November 2021, called Unguarded. And I'm looking forward to reading his side of the story without boundaries, i.e. Michael Jordan. Unguarded, I'm looking forward to that. Yes, I am. Of all the players and insiders who shared, when I saw Kobe, child, the tears started coming. Ducks don't cry. The tears, it couldn't hold back. I loved seeing how they were so impressed and amazed by him, and saw him as a threat in a good way. And we all know how he felt about MJ. That was such a pleasure to see him get his flowers. At that time, and that put a huge smile on my face. But to watch the backstory around the 92 Olympics versus Croatia was disappointing. They were trying to kill Kukos. I don't know why. I mean, Irish and Isaiah Thomas to not be able to play was another moment of bitch-assness. I'm trying my hardest not to comment on Michael Jordan. I am. Because I am in agreement with everything that I've read on social media. The mistreatment of Isaiah Thomas and Reggie Miller was very telling. And those gentlemen still carried themselves with class and integrity. That was so wonderful to witness. I love me some Isaiah Thomas, and the only reason why MJ hates Isaiah is because he didn't bend the knee. That's it. The games versus Detroit were, oh my God, like WTH. It really started the story for me. People referred to MJ as not being human. Well, Detroit reminded us that yes, the hell he is. Watch, bam. So I enjoyed watching that over and over and over. It actually turned me on. So yes, he is human. He is very, very human. I think the most humane moment that I witnessed was when the Bulls beat the Sonics in their finals on Father's Day. And that was, and he was crying in the locker room because it was his first win since his father's passing. And that's when I started to see him as a man. He was vulnerable, he was humble, and he was royal to me. I think what made him super wasn't because of his immaculate skills in basketball, but his level of confidence. His level of confidence is unparalleled, but because of his lack of humility in humane areas is why he'll always come across as narcissistic. Ahmad Rashad has reinstated my disdain for him. He's not a friend. He's a jockstrap. Never will I ever allow any of y'all to order me not to talk to somebody. I'm loyal to my friends, do or die. I know how to hide bodies, but I am not anybody's property, and I can't see myself allowing my friend to say, I'll order you not to speak to somebody. Huh? It would have been the response. And okay, MJ, I ain't gonna do my job. Okay. Anyway, like I said, I love me some Pippen, John Stockton, Reggie Miller, Phil Jackson. I wanna play Phil Jackson in some chess. I think he will give me a run for my money. Magic Johnson, my newfound love for Steve Kerr, Kukos, God Lord, Kukos. But don't Kukos look like a wildling? Don't he look like he came from Game of Thrones?
That is so wrong.
He do. I mean, he came with the zero fucks. He just did. Anyway, in conclusion, do I think MJ is a hero? No. He possesses some characteristics of a hero, but one of the most telling factors in a hero is his lack of nobility. He is too self-absorbed to be noble, and he wants what he wants for himself and nobody else. And if he have to pretend to care about you to get you to help him win, he will do whatever is necessary for him to win. And that's, to me, is what makes him scary. That's what, to me, is what defines him as humane as can be. What else I have? And that's it. That's what I have. I know that was a lot, but I could have wrote more,
it was good.
and I didn't.
Well, I'll go next. Only because, if you don't mind, just because I don't have a lot here. I got to episode 7, which I think was good. I didn't think I'd get that far, even though I grew up being a basketball fan. I can remember, like you said, this was like going down memory lane. I can remember Jordan coming on the scene and thinking, who is this person that everybody's so crazy about? When the shoes came out and everybody wanted them, like, what is going on? But what I loved the most about watching it was not, like you said, not his story, but the backstory. There was so much around what made him who he is and was building his character that, of course, we wouldn't have never known about. I mean, unless we really dive deep. I was a huge Scottie Pippen fan when the Bulls came out. I never really liked Jordan. I mean, I liked Jordan because he was amazing, but I could always remember liking Scottie because of his personality, just kind of how he came out on the court, how he played. And I was always drawn to him, always. So to hear his story, I think that's when I got fully engaged. I was like, oh my God, come on, you $18 million for 7-year contract, and you're the number
fight somebody,
and you're the number 2 player in the league. What in the hell? You're playing under the greatest player in the world. You're like his number 2. You're his ride or die, and you're getting. I don't even know how much Jordan was making. They didn't even say, but it had to be a tremendous amount. And Scottie Pippen still kept showing up. So when he did what he did, that kind of made me think, okay, when he like got the surgery before, he was supposed to go back, and he let him play on his own. I was kind of torn between that because I feel like, okay, yeah, you just signed a contract. It is what it is. But I can understand his emotion from it. He was like, what the hell? I mean, I'm getting nothing out of this. I'm getting used. I'm getting abused. They're talking about trading me in my face, and that was a lot. So I really enjoyed his story. I love hearing Dennis Rodman's story. The little bit they did give us, I know he was a bad boy, apparently very troubled. I mean, you could see that, and he showed that on the court. He didn't even try to hide that. So you can definitely see him being troubled. I think the biggest highlight for me was the game that they played against the Phoenix Suns when they won the championship, only because at that time I was actually I kind of started veering toward Charles Barkley because the Bulls were getting so high and mighty. I'm an underdog person. I always kind of have been. So I wanted to see the Phoenix Suns win. They looked to me like the Bulls looked when they were trying to beat Detroit. So I kind of was like, I know I was there with that ride. So I'm like, now I want to see the Phoenix Suns kind of come up and kind of do the same thing. And I literally remember sitting down and watching that entire series and getting so frustrated when they won. I think it was like 99-98 or something like that. They beat him like by a point. Mm-hmm. So I was just so frustrated for Charles Barkley at that point. But all in all, I think it was good. I can definitely give it I'll just say a solid 4 because of the story. It was, I think, as honest as they allowed it to be. Of course, there's probably still some things we don't know, but as honest as allowed it to be. Horace Grant, him, being pegged as a snitch. I don't know about that. Jordan was like very open. It was Horace. Like, I mean, did you call him? Did you ask him? Like, did you like, hey, dude? Like, I mean, he was just new. I didn't know that Jordan was kind of such a diva. I think that surprised me. I never knew that he had some divism about him. Like you said, probably scary. I can't imagine what went on in that locker room. And he walked, his shoulders seemed to get higher and higher every episode. I mean, his 6 whatever stature just grew and grew. And I think it probably had to be hard to work with him and not cower underneath that. And so for them to show up and still play their best, knowing that they were looked at as really just pawns to help him win, to help Jordan win a championship, I was like, that takes a lot. So it was good. It was something I never thought I would watch on my own. So I appreciate being able to watch it because I've learned something. Now when my sons talk about shit, I'll be like, well, I know that I got some stats. I got some stats now. Wait a minute, wait. Episode 3 was like, no. Yeah, I was showing out a little bit last night. They was like, what you watching? I was like, none of your business. But did you know? So yeah, I appreciated that. That was good. Now I'm ready to hear what Jessica got to say.
Word, I'm ready for yourself, y'all. Come on, Jess.
Let's go, Jess.
All right, so like you ladies, I too played basketball. It was the second sport I ever fell in love with. I played it. I knew it. I did watch it late, like around my adolescence years and going in. Now I couldn't play on a team until I got to high school, but it was nothing for me to go and get a pickup game, on the courts or what have you. So that is the ball I grew up playing. I watched this twice. The first time was last year during quarantine, and it was kind of like I was there. You know what I mean? Like I was hyped when I was watching the game. It was like I was in that arena, feeling like I was there with the Bulls watching the games. If anybody watching me up there would have been like, girl, what are you doing? Sipping, just watching the game. All 10 episodes, like I was there. Billy, when you said that you wanted this on here, I was just like, I got excited, but it's like, you got to go back because now you got to look at this with a different set of eyes. And as I'm watching this, and I'm sitting up here like, and we all, with all sports, not just basketball, the game changes as time changes. And I get that. However, I think I much prefer how the game was played in the 90s. Mm-hmm. I would take the toughest of the toughest from the East Coast and the West Coast today and put them up against Detroit 91 and 92. Y'all would be crying your eyes out, okay? Y'all are not prepared for it. Y'all ain't built for it. And that includes LeBron. Yeah, I said it.
I don't want that smoke.
No, none of that. None of that. They don't want none of it. But they way softer now. They wasn't asking for no fouls back then. They wasn't calling no texts back then. Like, they played the game the way it was supposed to be played, especially on the East Coast. Like, to watch when they went up against New York and they went up against Indiana and Boston and Detroit. That is East Coast ball. That is East Coast
right there.
So that was beautiful to see, something that we don't really see anymore. And one of the reasons why, because I have many things, as y'all know, and Gabby, like you, I give credit where credit is due, and I have all, respect in the world for Chicago Bulls. I give credit where credit is due. Boston, you have the most. So I'll give you that. I'm a New Yorker. I would never root for Boston anything, but I'll give credit where credit is due. But I will always, I am a true New Yorker, first and foremost, born and raised here. So, of course, I will represent my 2 teams.
That's right. Well,
who were in the
Mets. Mets is fairly new.
For those of you who didn't know, yes, they were in the playoffs. I mean, we didn't make it to the championship. I mean, we was right there. I know, bro. We was right there.
There's always next year.
Yeah, I don't want to hear that right now. I'm still injured. But going back to the Bulls back then, the game has changed, and to see that, it just took me right back there. Even with myself playing, I didn't ask for no text, and I played with men, boys and men, not just women. I wasn't asking for no text. I took a hit, and I got up and kept going. I took a charge, and I kept up and going. I took a charge once. I didn't think I was gonna get up. That's how, between the impact of the floor and the for me hitting, like I coughed. That's how bad.
Absolutely right. Because just back then, I remember like middle school days. They didn't have a separate team for girls. So when you played on the league, I was the only girl on my team.
Exactly.
Playing with all guys.
And watching them play like that, I think also makes reason why it was so hard for them to fight for the WNBA, because it was almost so violent in ways. It looked like a man's sport. I mean, I know it was wrong for them to do that because women can play their asses off, but it just looked like this brutal sport back then. And it was like, do we really want women punching each other, rolling around on the ground to get a ball, elbowing them in the titties and stuff. Like, you don't, do we want that? Do we want to see that? But they wanted to see it because it happened. So
exactly. So, but they didn't just want us. We also had to fight for that.
Yeah, I know.
No,
I know. I
so.
remember that. Yeah, we went through that. Yeah.
But also though, every shot, every still that they showed with an elbow in Michael Jordan's face, or like I was like, ooh, I ain't seen that before. Let me get that as a screensaver.
You wrong. Your first
Billy,
comment, your first comment on this show gonna be from Michael Jordan. He gonna be like,
it better be, and I'm like, where's my money? I'm like, where's my motherfucker? You don't got shit to say until you send me a check.
Let me say something, and that takes me to my next point, Billy, because Gabby, how you said how a lot of them was saying like he was like a god. Yes, I truly believe, as folks of color, we all have our individual powers. Yes, was his basketball? Perhaps. I don't know how I felt about that. I had mixed emotions about it. I did find it very funny. What was it when was it John Sally, who played for Detroit?
Yeah. When
they lost the first game and they was like, all right, they had to figure out the special defense specifically. He went just like this. He was like, we had to figure out we had a defense specifically for Michael Jordan because he ain't human, right? We had to get him before he took flight.
He said
we had to get him before he took flight because when he took flight, we ain't getting him. So as soon as he gets to the paint, boom, get him.
They were doing that. It was
and that's
like
how you do it.
Street ball on the NBA level. It was
and there was nothing that the refs could do either.
What it was. Back in the 90s,
that's exactly what it was.
Basketball was straight up like, if you going outside on the court, you bringing that same heat to the inside court.
Because the referees ain't know what to call. Like,
Right. That's what I'm saying. There was nothing the refs could do.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was OC. But I feel like we only really did that the NBA only did that on the East Coast. West Coast ball wasn't played that way.
Yeah.
Only in the East Coast teams really did that. And I think a lot of the teams had to develop that, knowing that the teams up north were going to bring it when they came down south. So Orlando Magic, the Heat, y'all all had to step up your game.
Penny Hardaway and whatever Penny Hardaway did.
Exactly. The Charlotte, when Larry Johnson and them got there.
The Charlotte team back in the 90s.
Yes, but again, I feel like they knew they had to step up the game. You are on the East Coast now. You better learn how to play East Coast ball, or you're going to get hurt.
But I will say about the West Coast fans, they are crazy. They are.
Oh, yes, they are. I don't think I'm ever going to Utah. I don't think I'm ever going to Utah.
They crazy. I mean, they take dedication to a whole new level. Like, is this a game or is this church? We worshiping? Are we worshiping?
Hello.
Like when I saw the pig, frosting bull frosting, I'm like, wait a minute, they went and killed a whole bull just to make a mockery of the Chicago Bull. I ain't messing with them. I'm never going to Utah ever.
Gabby, you didn't make it this far, Roe. I don't know if you got there. They were in Utah. I forgot. I think this was for Game 5.
That's for Utah Jazz, right?
Yeah, Utah Jazz. Yeah. They were there for Game 5. It's like late in the night. He's hungry, so they ordered him a pizza.
Oh my God.
He was the only one who ate that pizza. He developed food poisoning before Game 5. He was all toe up for Game 5.
He got straight up poisoned. Straight up poisoned.
Nobody else ate pizza besides him. Nobody else ate pizza by him. He was the only one right before Game 5, and he was the only one who got sick. It was like, I'm never going to Utah because y'all playing it. You can't pay me to believe that y'all didn't. Oh wait, Michael Jordan's ordered pizza.
Yeah, kill him.
You know what I'm saying?
I told Billy, I was like, Billy, they were trying to kill him. Oops. If nothing else, like okay, no, like not even like
give them that 1-year-old pepperoni.
Hold on, we can't even. Even if it was on some, listen, we can't kill MJ. We don't want to kill MJ.
We want to hurt him, though.
Enough. Let's just make him sick enough so the Bulls can't win.
And he's still, you know what? Thanks for reminding me of that, Earl. I mean, Jess. He played while he was sick.
Yes.
Damn near dead, right? He still played. They still won.
Wow.
But it showed the world that he can be gotten to. Not just Detroit beating his ass, but the fact, we can still get to you. Please know that. We can still get to you. And with that happening, it kind of like pushed him to rely on his teammates, because Pippen showed out, like, and then it was ooh, damn. Oh, okay. Woo. It was that. And I love the shot where after they won, he just couldn't walk anymore, and he just happened to it looked like he was about to fall, but Pippen was right there and let him lean on him, and he walked.
Always.
And I was like, look at this beautiful black man. I mean, why he ain't with Jesus?
Which is why it kind of pissed me off when Jordan made the comment. I mean, I guess he had a migraine. I guess when he was sick, when he didn't feel good.
Right,
I was
Gabby,
like,
I don't
come
know if you
on
got there.
now.
Episode,
You really
I
think
think
he
that was
was
episode
not-
2.
Yeah.
You didn't get there. Episode
maybe
2.
Yeah, he was. I
Episode
guess.
two.
It was
two.
so horrible to hear him talk about it like that because do you really think your teammate who's been there for you all along? This man saying he can't see. He's blind on the court. He's like, I guess he had him.
I guess he had a migraine.
He said he had a fucking migraine.
And you can't remember that, but you can remember what Isaiah Thomas said and did in 20, 30 years ago. But you can't remember your friend health. Like I'm telling you, his logic is, I don't understand.
And that's where I was like halfway going through the documentary because I was still a kid during the early part of the documentary. Halfway through, it was like, okay, now I'm a little older and I'm starting to remember things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I remember that. I think Billy, you and I talked about this.
Yeah.
I think that was the last championship they won, and he told Steve Kerr, "Be ready, be ready." I remember Kerr was like, "I'm gonna be ready." Thank you. I remember watching that live, and he was like, "I'm gonna be ready. I'm gonna be ready." I'm like, ready for what? Like, y'all really gonna let Kerr take this last shot?
Right. I remember watching that game. And I remember when Kerr was like, I got you. Like, when he reacted the way he did, I was like, look at this silly white boy. Come on now. Like, I remember reacting like that. And then to know the backstory behind it, I said, oh, poor baby. I love you still.
Right. Like, all that pressure on him, and he didn't even, it was like, but he was ready for it. He knew it was coming, but he was ready for it.
I love him. But I didn't even realize I could, but...
I gave him the respect now, especially after him coaching Golden State. I felt like you got a ready-made team.
Yeah,
you can't. I was already ready, so I didn't know if I could really give him the credit. I'd go back knowing this. I give you all the way credit just dealing with the Bulls organization the way that you did, and you, you know, right, and then you getting yourself, you know, up to par for Michael Jordan's expectations, but you standing up to him. And I think that's when, even in the documentary, he said it, like, that's when Kerr got my respect, when he wouldn't back down for me. And I'm like, it's
punch
just
him in
this.
the chest.
And he's letting, but he let you know, like, I'm here. I know you're going to beat me, but I'm
here.
You have to beat me.
That's what made him sexy. Really.
Right.
That's
so I'm
what
like,
made
go ahead,
him
Kerr.
sexy.
I'm like, go ahead, Kerr. Okay. I'll give
and you guys got to give to, I mean, I know you touched on it, Phil Jackson. He was my second probably favorite in watching it. I mean, just overall seemed like a good human being.
Yes.
Good freaking person. And this is the same man that did the same thing with Kobe, you know, when he so it just proves it's just him. He's just a good amazing coach, amazing man. I love that they really dedicated, I think, one of the episodes just to his backstory. Yeah. Because it really is stuff I didn't know. And I already knew I loved Phil Jackson, but I'm like, oh my God, but that just made it seem he deserves every accolade. Just amazing person.
It just confirmed it. Like, you are a beautiful person through and through. Do we have a road named after you? Where is it?
Yeah, you know, like a mountain, a star, or something.
It'll probably be somewhere in Oklahoma or North Dakota where he, you know, visited as a child and where he grew up. So it's coming. It's coming. But even with her, like, that was because at first I didn't jump on it right away. I think episode 3 had already been released by the time I decided to get on it because. Again, like you, I had watched many things. Like, I knew certain backstories to Dennis Rodman. I had watched tons of documentaries on Michael Jordan. I'm a sports fan, so I mean, even outside of this, 30 for 30 was keeping me going during quarantine. So I what are you going to tell me that I don't know? And then my father was like, no, just there's some things on here you may not know. So I started to watch. So I didn't know Phil's backstory. I didn't know Steve Kerr's backstory and the tragedy of his father's death and all that. And that. So there was a lot of backstory. I did not. It did hurt my heart too. We'll get to that in 1 second. I did not know about Pippen's contract, and that was extremely.
I was like.
Because it was like, hold on, I'm sorry, how much?
How much for how long?
For how long? So I understand what you're saying. You felt some type of way. No, honey, enjoy your summer, get your surgery, and heal up the way you want to heal up. They ain't paying you otherwise to do it, so you do you. But without him doing that, for the bull that I love, Rodman never would have shined the way that he did if Pippen didn't step away. Because even Michael said himself, while Pippen was out, he was like, that Rodman stepped up.
But look what happened when Pippen came back, though.
But what did Rodman do? He went back to doing what he does, and that's grabbing
rebounds. They just said he started feeling like he was
the
the third person. Isn't that when he took his Vegas trip?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh Lord,
Love it for me. This is what I love it for, and this is why Phil Jackson is the way that he is, because he knew the players on his team. He knew Robin needed that break, and this is where again, this is with the period of time where stuff was like, oh, I remember that, but I didn't realize it was this close.
You didn't know,
right? I knew.
I remember
him and
that
Madonna
too.
was together. I remember that.
Right.
I remember when he went on that little vacay and he was going crazy in Vegas. I remember that. I remember when he did the WWE with Hulk Hogan. I remember that. I didn't know he was practice for that though.
Right. I didn't know it was 24 hours later. Like,
right.
Yo, when I saw that, I said, I had to stop it and said, Lord, okay, this is not my grown child. This is not my grown child.
Right, you can't get
I can't get to him. So don't take it personally. Don't take it.
But look at what he did. But look at what he did. You know what? My thing is, I made this conscious decision as a child. People could take it as they want to take it. I never judged a player what they did in their personal life. I judge what you did on the field, on the court.
On the court.
Yeah.
That's how I judge. And that goes all the way back to Darryl Strawberry. Because I remember when the Yankees in my lifetime, I bought that first World Series in, and we were jumping for joy in school, and everybody was trashing Darryl Strawberry's name. And I'm sitting up here like, do you realize what this man has just done?
Right.
Yeah.
Not many men in the game or in the sports of history can say, I got a Mets ring and a Yankees ring.
You heard.
So no, I don't care. He got a coke problem, okay, but that has nothing to do with
You
played on the field. He was hitting them balls in orbit, and nobody cared. So, but that's something for you to handle in your personal life. And who's to say the demons that he has for a reason why he's doing these things? Now, in Rodman's case, he was just so eccentric, and I loved it. He didn't care as far as I'm concerned. He broke the bridge down for Iverson to come in and do what he did.
You said that before, and I meant to comment on it, but I didn't want to because I knew we were going to comment about it now.
Okay, go ahead.
I disagree with that because AI was about principle. You know, like what he was street, you know, from the street to BK, do or die, la 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 la. But he still came to work. He still came to do his job. It was, you gonna respect me as I am, motherfuckers, or you're not. That was AI. You know, Robin was like, look, I just want to do what I'm gonna do, and let me do what I'm gonna do. And that's a total different thing. You had to you had to babysit Rodman. You ain't have to babysit AI.
In his life, yes, you didn't have to babysit Rodman on the court.
You ain't have to babysit AI in his life. That was his wife. Rodman. You said that. You had to babysit Rodman because he was
in his life. But when it came in his life, yes. But when it came time to get on the court, he handled business.
Well,
when they had to come get him out of his when they had to go get him out of his bed to get him to practice.
Because of the babysitting, like. He wouldn't have been able to do that if you weren't babysitting. Like, you didn't have to pull him by the ear. You didn't have, because of the babysitting is what, okay, well, damn, you got me here. Let me go ahead and perform. It was that with him. It was with AI. He was, okay.
In difference, AI was the man.
Right.
He was the
and Rodman wasn't. He was like third
down.
So
Rodman didn't have to necessarily be the ideal. And then even then, Jordan said it. He was like, yo, when Scotty was out, he was a model citizen. He did say that.
Like,
yo, Scotty's back. Good. I need to go be reckless for a little bit. Yeah, so I can come back and do me because this is not how I do.
And I think it was based all on ego too. And I didn't realize this about Rodman, but the Bulls were this clean cut. You know, they played by the rules, raw talent type team. And like you said, when they started playing against Detroit, what they didn't have was that edge. They didn't have that. I might have to slap a few people around to get the ball in the hoop. They didn't have it.
I gotta slap a bitch today.
So Robin was like, look, a little slapping ain't never hurt nobody. Ain't nobody gonna die. Ain't nobody gonna die.
And even when Phil was a little skeptical to bring him into the team when they wanted to bring him to Chicago, what did Scotty and Mike say? He can help us win.
Yeah, and because he gave them permission to play ball.
Yeah,
to play ball.
And I think that even stepped up Pippen's aggression.
It did. That's what I mean. After that, they all became more aggressive. I don't know if Rodman realized like he embedded that seed of it's okay to play this way. Yeah. It's okay to do this. And when they saw it happening, and then, you know, and because he had no fear. First game he was knocking niggas on the floor. It was like, oh,
boom.
Oh, we can.
That's what we're doing.
And so they started doing it, and they started playing better. So they all had their piece. They really did.
They all had their contribution to those 6 championships.
It was not just Michael
Exactly.
Jordan. I think that's what I got the most out of it. It was not just Michael Jordan.
And that's what I love about this documentary.
Yes, collective.
Right, and that's what I love about this documentary too, because for years, but from the time that he got in the Chicago Bulls jersey, it was always Michael Jordan. Jordan. He was not on that court alone. There was a tremendous amount of talent that was on that court that helped them bring
talent,
the
emotions, feelings, dedication,
sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
You know what? Let's give a toast to toast to them mofos because they earned it.
I'm almost out.
Yes.
Chicago Bulls.
Cheers to the last dance and to all those who bled, sweated, cried, to tell their story. This is for you. Yep. Everybody except MJ. Everybody.
Listen, one of the foundations. So cheers to everyone.
I said
everyone.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So
and
yes,
even to those that came before Michael Jordan.
Amen. Say it again, honey. Say it again.
Yes.
Those that came before.
Yes, amen. Let the choir say amen.
You know what? Also, I want to point out when the whole issue with Pippen's contract, where he was pretty much being robbed, enslaved, depending on how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
MJ had an influence to be able to do something about it and chose not to.
Yeah.
He had an influence, and he chose not to. So with that, with seeing that, lets me know the level of respect as a person he had for Pippen.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt that was telling. Like, again, another character flaw. I mean, like the whole.
I mean, that could be said about everything in general, because there were many things.
We're talking about number 1 and number 2. We ain't talking about anybody else. We're talking about number 1 and number 2. When you see your number 2 is not being honored as a number 2, and you're the number 1 to that number 2, I'm thinking to myself, well, hold the hell up. If I'm number 1 and my number 2 is being treated like he number 15, let me, number 1, do something about it to make sure he is in the position that he deserves to be in, not just on the court, but off the court. So
not being number 2, 122. That was 122.
Exactly.
Listen, but that's my whole thing. Like, to see that is not surprising to me at all. When for you to be the influencer and the icon that you was, for how many things that had happened between 91 and 2001, did Jordan never speak up?
They never speak about.
So are you shocked that you didn't speak up for his number 2 when you didn't speak out for anything? When how many people were gunned down in Chicago while he was there? Did you ever speak on that?
Nope.
Yeah.
How much justice?
What he did to the mayor? What was the guy's name that he said Republicans buy sneakers too?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, did he really do that?
He said that out loud.
I mean, granted, it is true.
Obama said something about that. He didn't say he didn't say he was wrong, but Barack Obama said he was wrong. He said he was wrong.
Granted, was that a true statement? Yes, but you should have never said it. You should have never said it.
And to see when he's speaking and whatever, to see the lack of remorse in his mannerism, it's like
in all of it.
In all of it.
He wasn't sorry for any of it.
None of it. Even when they were talking about the Olympics and how, Isaiah was cut out because of MJ.
He wasn't sorry about that either.
And whatever. And it was like
Isaiah
said.
Just own it.
Yes. Set his feelings aside. I'm thinking about the kids that are watching us, the Black American kids that are watching us as overall, not how we feel about it. And he couldn't even do that. He couldn't even do that.
The only time I saw emotion
how many black kids loved Isaiah Thomas? Think
Huh?
about that. How many black kids loved Isaiah Thomas? Who would have loved to see him in the Olympics? Hello. Come on, you. If anything, I'm concerned that you robbed the black kids who wanted to see them who wanted to see themselves represented via Isaiah Thomas and get that medal
from all over the country.
And if anything, but see, you know what? I'll just say this. And I'm not upset with Isaiah because you saw he took it, like you said, he took it with class. Like I don't feel I met the criteria for it. While I wasn't there. Mm-hmm. But I feel like had he gone there, the Olympics would have seen another level of aggression to which they have never seen before.
They already was killing them. They already was killing them.
Like, can you imagine going up against Russia like that?
Yeah.
Kukoc
And they
was
probably
like,
didn't want
Yo,
that.
Kukoc was like, well, what
They
the fuck
probably
I
wasn't.
do?
They wasn't prepared for like this. Ain't the States, man. We playing against all kinds of countries around the world right now. They're
Yeah.
not ready for that type of aggression on the court. And then the refs probably would have called it, but probably might have cost them the Olympics. It
Yeah.
would have cost them the gold. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm not upset with the dream team that was there. That was a perfectly put. I'm mad Isaiah wasn't there, but that dream team was a perfect,
Yeah.
well put together team.
Yeah.
They did what they needed to do. If I'm not mistaken, that was the first time we were allowed to set our pros
Yeah.
to the for basketball to the
Yeah.
Olympics. So I was very pleased with that. Some of my favorites were there, like you said. Barkley at one point was definitely
All of them.
right.
They were all
MJ
good.
to me is
Ewing,
Magic
all of
Johnson.
them.
So when
Yeah.
you say MJ, it's like I don't think of Magic. I don't think of Michael Jordan when you say that. I think
You
Magic
think that-
Johnson.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
That's
Yeah.
MJ.
And
That's
You
MJ.
know what though? But let me tell you about some Mr. Magic, right? Is it me? Or he
What you
still
about to say?
Is it me or he kind of shady too? Like he be having them slick clapbacks, comments, and then you be like, oh, like wait,
Only when he's commentating, because
but he says it with a smile. He says it with a smile, like Lady May in Greenleaf. She be saying like, wait.
Oh
Did you
yes,
just
I love. Girl,
Did
don't
you just
start
use
with
the
Green.
Bible to curse me out? And like, don't Magic be giving you that? Like, he was a pleasant young man, depending on what day, but he was a pleasant young man. He be giving you that.
A little bit, but I don't. I think a little bit, but if anybody's the shade in basketball, I would say it was Charles Barkley, because do you ever watch TNT at the halftime shows?
Yeah.
The things that be coming out his mouth, it was like, well, I really feel Charles, damn.
This was good. It was
Between him and
good,
Shaq,
though.
sometimes it'd be like, whoo, okay, y'all, you may be glad that the game has changed now. Here, I'll read y'all something the other day that somebody sent me that they was like, oh, Durant is petty, that they said. I'm like, both these statements speak truth and they're both facts. So what do you want me to say to that? Scottie Pippen, KD, as great as he is offensively, it turned out to be his worst enemy because he didn't know how to play team basketball. KD can score better than LeBron. Can score better than LeBron. Surpass him? Nah, that's Scottie Pippen. Durant's response: didn't the great Scottie Pippen refuse to go in the game for the last second shot because he was in his feelings? His coach drew up a play for a better shooter. So I'm like, y'all both speak facts. There's nothing to be said.
My son called me out on it. I'm a huge KD fan, and KD got the same, I think, heat that LeBron got from leaving Cleveland when he left his hometown. And so I've been like a follower, but when he was like, my sons know I love Scottie Pippen, so like, they beefing, right? They beefing. I'm like, what? Because why would I just know that? Like, I don't know that. What's going on? So I don't know what started it or anything like that. Two great players, but it's funny how you have that era and this era, and they it's never gonna die like that.
No, it's two different eras, so you
So
can't.
two different eras. Yeah.
And then I'll give Michael Jordan this, because he was the one that they were gonna surround the NBA around anyway. So it was just a matter of, but each icon or decade player changed the way the game was played.
True.
Like Magic Johnson changed the way the game was played.
Kobe changed it. Kobe changed it.
And then in the midst of that, LeBron crept in and was switching up things a little bit too. So it was almost like you had Kobe and LeBron almost at the same time. So we got the end of the era, but that's not quite over just yet. Mm-hmm. LeBron is creeping in like, okay, we're going to have to switch a few things up here because I'm on the game. I thought Curry might have been that for LeBron. Like, okay, watch yourself because you got another young buck coming up here that might change the game, how you're playing it. But I don't see it. I feel like Donovan Mitchell is probably going to be the next one that the NBA surrounds around.
So that means you're giving up on Curry. I don't know. I see Magic Johnson and Curry.
Well, Curry they got to rebuild Golden State.
They do.
And then we got to see what happens there.
And it could be done with him still on it.
Oh, no, it could definitely be done. But Clay's got to come back. We got to see how he comes back. Does he come back healthy? How does he come back play? Like, that whole team needs a whole redo because that's not the Showtime 5 anymore.
No, it's not.
You know what I mean? So we're going to have to. And then you split that team up, too. So,
girl,
we got to see. But there's no end for Golden State, not at all. But we got to see how y'all rebuild.
Word.
But I love the championships that you won. I do. And I give you credit for that. So. But that's my take on also the production, the way it was shot, the way.
Oh, and the soundtrack. The soundtrack took me back. I was like,
and the one that I was like, that was my shit.
it.
Yeah.
And there's one thing that I do like that I never really saw before in any other documentaries was they played for them, rather than them having to wait to see it when it airs, what other people saying. Well, this one.
Oh yeah, they gave him. They
said that,
I love
and they
that.
gave it to him, and they said, I'm watching this. He goes, okay, so here's my take on that.
Yeah, I love that.
Right.
I love that.
I was like, this is great. This
They didn't
is
give
how
them
you do
time
it.
to think about a response. What do you want to say right now?
You see, that's what I'm saying. When you,
this is what
why
he
I
said.
was
This is what he said. This is what he said really happened.
Loved it.
Yeah,
It was
I like
good.
that too.
It was
But
good.
it made me wonder if he was back, in productions office talking about something. You better show him to me. You better tell me what he said before you air
Damn,
it.
you won't let up on this man.
I don't think he holds that type of power anymore. Like, ain't nobody afraid of
Well, I don't know. When you have yes people on your team and you're paying them very well, they never go away.
Well, yes, man, yes. But as the documentary of this film, I'm not your yes man.
That's true.
True. That's true.
That's
true. What I appreciated the overall story. Thank you, ESPN.
Good job.
You, ESPN. You know, they and another good job that they, stuck to. They kept the personal. The only person that they kind of dived into his personal life was Rodman, but that's because Rodman did that. Rodman gave us,
say that.
Access to do that. So
Billy, you froze for a second. Say that again.
You froze for a second.
Oh no! I said the only person that they kind of touched on his personal life was Rodman, and that's because of Rodman's actions. He kind of like made it easy to do, by how he was moving and shaking. But everybody's personal life was left there. It wasn't, it wasn't a part of this story, and I appreciate that.
It was good.
I appreciate that.
Overall.
Yes, absolutely.
So
glad I watched it.
Moving on to Hitsville, the Making of Motown.
Yeah.
Afro Sheen. Afro Sheen.
Girl. Oh, Jessica changed her clothes.
She's doing a switch up.
I was like, where'd she go? I love it.
What? Yeah.
Okay.
I love everything.
My favorite Motown group.
Woo! Show it again. Hold on. Show it again.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gabby, you were with me when I got this. We was at that concert together.
Oh, the Boyz II Men concert. Okay.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Let me tell you, Hitsville, it did nothing but keep a smile on my face. I felt like I needed it because of all of these other pressure, emotionally draining films we've been watching.
That you've been making us watch. Yeah.
Yes. This was actually nice to have something light.
Own it.
Really.
And that we've been watching.
Every song just took you back like,
yes. And
yes.
it put a smile on your face. It put a smile. To see their backstory, it was a joy. I love the relationship that Barry Gordy had with Smokey Robinson.
Yep.
I love that they gave acknowledgement to the people who we didn't know about, the secretaries, securities, and so on and so forth. I loved everything about this story. And if you are listening to this and in music and you thinking about creating a label or a part of a label and whatever, you need to be watching this documentary to understand what are you sacrificing and how much of you is needed to make it happen. Because if you don't know, anybody can say, "Oh, I got a label," but what you doing about it? Because Barry enjoyed it. He did everything about it. And his work spoke for itself. Oh, I even love the
fun hits, man.
That part. That
ham
part.
bone.
The ham bone. I gotta learn that shit. Like, I thought,
Girl, they was roasting on people's moms. That's what
you know
that
what
was
I'm saying? I thought we only did that in church. But Go ahead, Gabby.
Girl.
So that's where the mama jokes came from. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this documentary. I mean, I was able to actually be involved and in tune because, growing up, I believe I sometimes had an old soul growing up. So when I was like 9, 10, 11, even in middle school, I was listening to 50s, 60s music.
Yeah.
That was keeping me going. And I enjoy, from the Supremes to the Temptations to up to even Stevie Wonder. I didn't even realize that Stevie Wonder been with Motown and he'd been doing music since he was a child. you've been doing from like 11 years old, 12, 13, and it's just to know that Stevie is still around. You are amazing, Steven, the legend. He's a walking legend right there. The man is a genius, and
he was a beast. He came on the scene as a beast.
Yeah, beast. And then the Jackson 5, Michael Jackson and his brothers, and just that element just brought me joy. The music, just listening, the documentary and hearing the stories of how everything was, even with the writers that helped to write the songs. I believe it was two gentlemen,
the two brothers.
Yeah, I think they were twins too. I was like, wait, they're twins?
Either that, I wasn't sure. I was like, okay, those are either twins or your parents brothers. Got some strong genes.
You know they mama proud. You know they mama proud. Like, that's right, them my babies that wrote that song, y'all.
Yeah, and the background into it. I enjoyed it. It was a nice documentary about Supremes, the Temptations, even Smokey Robinson. He was doing it for a while now. Smokey's still alive. Smokey's still
Smokey's still alive. I need Smokey to leave them damn hair dyes alone. I need him to stop hairspraying his hairline. Let it go.
Leave Smokey alone.
Let it go.
Leave Smokey alone.
Let it go. Like Frozen. Let it go.
What's the difference than us doing spraying our hairs all kinds of colors or wearing our wigs and doing us?
What's the difference? The difference is we could see the difference. That's the difference. Like, we could see.
It's happening. You know it's happening.
Like, it don't make no sense when all this is stiff and all this is like, come on. You a beautiful man.
That man can sing.
You know what I'm saying? He's short hair, so just do that. Stop with the hair stuff.
Don't do nothing else.
Don't do nothing else. Just sing, boy. Just sing.
You know what I thought was funny? And it was like... Go ahead, Bill.
I'm gonna wrap it up because I'm not going. But for me, watching the whole thing, I give it a 5 because that was my enjoyment. I love music. I love the souls. I love the classics. It was spectacular. If anybody wants to know anything about Motown, the story of Hitsville, started out in Detroit. That homegrown feeling, community feeling started out, and everyone out there had a story to tell, just doing music and wanted to share their rhythm and style. And again, it goes back to the excellence of, to me, the melanin person that we just influence and keep on influencing the world. So snaps to that.
I give it a 5 too. I give it a 5 too. And also the fashions. Like, honey.
Oh, beautiful.
The fashions. Like, okay, I see you, boo, and you. Like, it was the fashion. I love that they showcased how everyone committed their lives to their craft, regardless how good they were or not, they were still spending hours a day to perfect it. I loved that. I love to see that. I give it a 5. I give it a 5 all around.
I gave it a 5 too. And really, for me, like all of you saying, literally, I don't think I could have written a lot about it if I wanted to because I was just enjoying the music.
Yeah.
But it felt like to me, literally like a hug from my grandmother because I grew up listening. Yep. I promise you, I listened to most of these songs from her. I just wish, rest her soul, I could have been like, oh my God, did you know? Because I'm sure she knew about a lot of this stuff. Yeah. Knew about these people came on the scene. But my grandmother literally introduced me to the 45, records. And I can remember sitting there with her, flip it over for me, baby, showing me how to do it, and I just could remember just sitting there listening to these great songs. I come from a really, musical family. So just looking at Berry Gordy's story, knowing he's, like you say, he sacrificed from learning, he took where he was, working at that car factory, and recognized his dream in a place where most people would have given up. The ability of that, he could have been like, this is what it is. I failed at the first thing. Here I am. I'm making cars. That's it. And he saw his dream in something where people could. That's how you just that drive. Just us as but we can make. Exactly. I was like, how I don't even know, like just the mentality of him to just see the good. And what I love the most about him, I think by watching it, was how selfless he was because he knew he wasn't the best. He knew he wasn't the best at everything, but he was willing to find the best at where he needed the best to be. And he was okay with that. He was okay with that. And even when he was talking, I knew he was better than me at that. I knew this guy was going to write that song better than me. I knew he was going to play that beat better than me. And he was okay with that. And sometimes people can't get past ego. And I think that's really what helped him grow because there was no ego there. Yep. I didn't see ego.
And that's what made him a phenomenal leader.
Yes,
I agree.
Exactly.
I agree,
no
definitely.
ego.
Yeah. I think one of the most key points.
Right.
I think one of the key points to me, just watching it, just like you guys, I grew up in a household full of music. My grandmother, I was introduced to Gladys Knights and the Pips via my grandmother. Temptations, my mother, like different relatives play different things. I mean, even though they wasn't on the Motown, my aunt used to clean to the stylistic. So like you guys too, I have an old soul.
Yeah.
But to see this, I knew about Motown, I understood it. Someone's coming to my house. I know you was gonna hear that. I understood it. I've seen movies, like I can't even count on one hand how many times me and my sister watched the Temptation movie over and over and over again. Yeah. So some of these backstories I knew for some of these groups, but to understand the impact that Motown had on just not just the community,
the culture,
not just the Black community,
the culture,
the country, the world.
The world, yes.
The world. Motown stretched across the world. You got people in England talk about, oh my God, Martha and the Vandellas, they're my favorites. Excuse me? Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Spell it.
Okay, like the impact. And then I've heard stories again, and you see documentaries, you listen to people tell stories, but just watching this, I don't think, and I could be wrong, but in my opinion, I don't think there was any other city, maybe except for maybe Philadelphia or Detroit, that was most profound for Black success.
Black excellence in music.
It was not just excellence in music, just successes in general, because Black folks who migrated from the South and went to Philadelphia and Detroit
and Chicago
in their endeavors, Chicago, yes, were successful in their endeavors, whatever they chose to do. You wanted to go work in this factory, you got that job, you earned enough to get your house, you earned enough to send your kids to school where you wanted to go to. Like whatever you set out to do, once you moved to the city, most Black folks were successful in the routes that they wanted to go. But to see it in Detroit the way that it was, and then to see Detroit where it is today, it's just like, come on, this didn't have to be. This didn't have to be. So it's like, what happened, but it was like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, but I think the key was Berry Gordy, because I think if he was in, absolutely, I feel like if he was in Seattle, Washington, Motown would have still been born. And I say that because his dream wasn't just to be this record executive, this music executive. His dream was to, as we saw it, was to promote Black music. He wanted Black music to be heard across the globe. And that was his goal. He would have done that shit from any damn where. It didn't matter where he was out there seeking talent. Yeah.
Okay, but did they have the assembly line in Seattle?
Regardless, I'm saying it started with him, because he's the one that provided these platforms for these folks to come and practice every day, come write every day, record every day. It was, this is what I need to have happen for this to happen. And I'm saying
he probably wouldn't have did it through the assembly line, but I guess what you're trying to say is that he would have found something. Yeah, maybe, I guess, Seattle's big on coffee. He might have worked at a coffee factory and been like, I'm gonna make the beans go through the thing.
Because he would have made it happen.
He would have made it happen. In the assembly line contributed to so much of that. It did, even down to some of the beats of the music because of the things he was hearing.
Yeah. My mind was blown by that when I saw that outline drawing. Like, what the hell? That is ingenious. Like, I have never known that. And literally between that, I think my oh my God moments. One was seeing the four brothers without Michael Jackson talking. I said, oh my God.
The Jackson Four?
Yeah, I said, oh my God.
That was sad to see, yeah.
That was sad to see. Mm-hmm. I was also just watching all of the which we already knew that, but when he had what I'm trying to say, MLK, when Martin Luther King was there with him, I was like, oh my God. Because I never knew that. I never knew he was like, I want to be an advocate. I want to help you do this. Yeah. That's amazing to me. I'm like, oh my God.
One thing that I found a little like, okay, and he admitted it, like there were things that I maybe should have done that I had to be pushed to do. Was it the best decision or not the decision I made? Because here it is, you have Martin Luther King coming to you, telling you that, I love what you're doing and what you're doing for the culture and the music. Because not everyone's listening to the music, not just Black folks, everyone was listening.
Everyone, yeah.
But when Marvin Gaye wrote that song and you tried to shelve it,
I think he was afraid. I think that's the one time he admitted being afraid because he didn't want what they were known for to change. It was supposed to be about love, and I think he kind of felt like if they did that, it would separate people because literally what's going on was a separation. Like we were already separated, but Marvin Gaye was highlighting it. So I think while Barry Gordy was like, "I want to hug the world," what's going on was like, "Look, there's a divide here." And we're gonna talk about it.
Revolutionary time back then when that came out, people was like, bump the love and the hugs. We've been
exactly.
Exactly. And even with the war in Vietnam, so people were at that point, like it's a revolution time. So
and we were always divided in some sense or another because even in the community, you had folks who followed King, who wanted the nonviolence, but then you had folks who followed Malcolm who like, okay, I'm gonna act how my enemy acts to me. If you're going to argue with me with words, I'm going to argue back. If you're going to hit me, I'm going to hit back. And then you had the Panthers who just wasn't taking anything. So, I mean, we were always divided on depending on who you wanted to go, right? And I think that reflected in the music as well. But the fact that we had so many options for that. And it was one thing that as we watched, especially when we got to the end and they were showing like all the bird's eye views of Detroit and the city as a whole, Aretha Franklin popped into my mind. Don't ask me why, she just did. And she was the queen of soul. She was the queen of R&B. Like she was around for many, many decades. She always repped Detroit, always. But you weren't on Motown. And I read somewhere that her father specifically did not want her on Motown, but never gave her why. She was on Atlantic Records.
Interesting.
I need to dig that up because I want to know, like, could you imagine if Aretha Franklin was on Motown?
Ooh.
How much more that would have...
Ooh.
Crazy.
And I'm saying, like, and she lit, and then at her funeral, they said, because again, we're never on time, Smokey showed up late. He was supposed to be the first one to speak because supposedly
she knew Smokey too.
Yeah.
They lived around the corner from each other. He knew Aretha since she was 5, but she wasn't.
That is interesting.
Motown.
Yeah.
He knew Aretha since she was 5, since they were children. But she wasn't on Motown.
Interesting.
Why is that?
So there's a backstory that we don't know yet because it's Aretha's
It
story.
is. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm curious to know that because I'm like, if nothing else,
just
Aretha
all
who she
with the
was, but she
tea.
was also Detroit. So I'm almost like Barry Gordy, for you to be the slickster that she was, and you let her get away. You let her sit through them
that
fingers.
Powerhouse. Yeah.
That powerhouse, that Detroit model, and you let her get away.
Interesting.
I need to know, and that's something they...
Genius. I mean, which reminds me, Aretha's movie with J Hud and Marlon Wayans should be coming out soon.
Yeah.
It's coming out.
They've been promoting it.
Yeah,
they've been promoting it.
So hopefully,
did anyone watch the recent one that came out with Cynthia?
With
that was the show. That was on a.
That was on Hulu.
Yeah.
That was on Hulu.
I haven't watched it yet.
I don't know where they're going with this. Why we getting too? Aretha made it very plain how she wanted her movie done.
Yeah.
So
and I think
you didn't mess with Queen.
Yeah,
so.
I think the Hulu one was we're gonna do what we want to do, and the movie one was her kids were behind it.
Okay.
All 4 of them.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on to High on the Hog on Netflix.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
Don't. I gotta
High on the Hog. Okay, this is what I have. So based on the book High on the Hog by Dr. Jessica B. Harris. Wait a minute, you interrupted. I'll be.
Oh my god, that's so good. I have to have that for my house.
Yo, you gotta send everybody one of those now.
You that is too much. Too much.
I said this is perfect for this segment.
Let's say all you white fuckers, but
you know.
No, we go because think about it. In the doc, he ate and broke bread with everybody. Everybody. So we gonna feed all you fuckers, okay?
Right. So go back to what I was saying. Based on the book High on the Hog by Dr. Jessica B. Harris, aka Dr. J, the host Stephen Satterfield was amazing. He said everything. He asked everything I wanted to know. I love the journey from the past to the present. This wasn't about food. It was about existence. It was very beautiful, absolutely necessary, and I loved watching all of the food and learning things I never knew. Learning about Ganve, I might be pronouncing it wrong, the city on the water, how that city became a city. The floating market was genius. Something Dr. J said really spoke out to me. She said, through food, we can find out there's more that connect us than that separates us. And that stuck out to me more than anything. Visiting Oide and the Gate of No Return.
Oh.
Oof. Learning about Hercules, the enslaved chef owned by George Washington, who was obsessed with him. Learning about how he kept Hercules enslaved was heartbreaking. And for those that don't know, in Pennsylvania, if you stay in the same state for 6 months, you are automatically free. That was actually true to entirety back then. That's absolutely true. So Washington would send him back to Georgia after 6 months, then have him come back to restart the clock. If that wasn't a level of mental torture.
Like, I'll give it to Jefferson. At least he gave his a way out.
But I'm glad he escaped. I'm glad he escaped to New York too. But I hate that his recipes are being claimed by some white woman. I don't want to say her name, but his recipes are being claimed by her. And basically, I need to go to West Africa just to be able to thank our ancestors is a necessity in my life. One word to describe this series is beautiful. It made me hungry, but it was beautiful. So, ladies, I have 2 words: road trip.
Yes, ma'am.
I would love it.
Yes, ma'am. I'm so down.
I'm here for it. 100%.
And I give it 5.
Mm-hmm.
No,
definitely 5.
I
May
give
I
it
go
5.
first this time?
Go ahead, Ro.
Well, mine's what it wasn't. No, you want to go ahead, Jessica? Because I didn't write anything. I know you had papers on papers on papers.
Well, I mean, this one, it was this one was the one where it was like this was the one you got cussed out, Billy, because it was like, can she make us watch something where I'm not getting emotional? Because I made it through the first episode, but by episode 2 or 3, the tears were coming, and it was just like, damn, yo, this is just so.
It was supposed to be about food.
But like they said like my big mama said in Soul Food, it's like it's not just about eating. It brought folks together, and it showed that in spite of everything that they were going through, they still managed to be creative. Like when that woman, I think this was episode 3, when they were in Virginia and they were making the macaroni and cheese, one of my faves. And in the old fashioned kitchen that was still going. This was amazing. Which I will be making. I'm not gonna say it, but I will be making my macaroni and cheese like that from now on. When she said she was, an ancestor, a descendant rather, of oh my goodness, Billy, help me. It wasn't Hercules. What was the other gentleman's name? What was Thomas Jefferson's cook?
Yeah, she was a descendant of him.
She was a descendant of him. Oh my goodness, what was it?
It slipped my mind too.
Their last name is Hemmings. Isn't it Hemingway?
Hemmings, yes. It was Hemmings and Hercules, yes.
Hemmings.
So Hemmings, she was a descendant of Hemmings. And, when she was saying how it wasn't even so much about the food as it was the power of our people and what they managed to do in spite of everything, the beautiful creations that they've done that is still so profound in our society today, some 200 plus years later. This speaks like it's more, the time has more than come for our ancestors to get their justice due. The shoulders that we stand on today, and just offer the creations, the beautiful creations that they put. I personally am learning the tidbits on them greens, because I have taken charge in my own personal household of making fresh greens when that time comes, because nobody else has the patience. And I wanted to do that. I don't want canned stuff. I want real fresh greens. And learning those little tidbits, it was like, okay, notes, I will be adding these to the recipe when the time comes. I'm so grateful that they finally put together the arguments between sweet potatoes and yams. Now we know. Now we know. Now we know.
Yes, yam and
Now
I'm island background, and that yam, that piece of yam, we used to that. The cassava, and we say cassava, and So
finally, we could put that to rest. We know the truth, and from now on, yes, we will just be having candy sweet potatoes at Thanksgiving. Yes. So I'm just gonna go with that. There was this one creation that they made. I gotta go back and get it. It just blew my mind. The beets. Cornbread.
Oh, yes.
I was like, go back. What is that again? Go back. Write this down. We gotta figure this out. Like this is, But
I
like you
all
said,
the vegans going crazy for that. The
yes.
beets cornbread.
I actually want to try that.
I do want to try it too. And I don't like beets, but I'll try the beets cornbread.
Bread, yes. I think it's good. Like just the tidbits, and I'm like, this has been around forever. And why has this never made it to my kitchen table?
It looked kind of challenging. That's why, because I ain't never seen that on Top Shelf. Like
no, they probably don't know nothing about that.
They do now, but
now they do if they watched it. But the fact that when he went to West Africa, he told that story, that historic aspect. He came all the way back, started from Charleston and made his way back up north, and just showed all the cities and the inputs of the connections to that. And that to me was just so profound, and I loved it. Like Gabby, you said, I definitely give it a 5. Like you said, it's not even so much about the food, but it does bring people, communities together. There was a reason why Thomas Jefferson and George Washington did not want to let them go. It was for more reasons than one, and it had very little to do about food. Yeah, I'm sure you just want to just shove your gullet, but it went way beyond that, and
all of that.
And I love the fact that they emphasized the chefs today, especially those that had opened up their restaurants and are cooking and are bringing those historic recipes into their restaurants today. Like I can't remember the name of the one. I think this was in episode. I think this too was in episode 3. I think he was in still in Virginia, and it was the Spanish gentleman and the white guy who owned the restaurant, and they sit down and they're telling their whole point is to tell the stories behind these meals and where they came from. And even they said we're learning as we go, and as we learn, we're incorporated and teach it. I'm like, you know what? I'm here for it. I'm okay. The fact that it's not black folks doing it, our folks are doing things. We're doing something different. You guys, and you know what it is? You will speak to your folks.
Yeah.
White folks will come to that restaurant. Latino folks will come to that restaurant. Now educate and teach your folks. Yeah. We will learn too as we come, but now they're educating their people at the same time. And I love that. And I think that's beautiful that they were doing that. And I was extremely hungry watching this. I really
I think we all were. Maybe.
I was extremely hungry. So yeah, I like that. The continue to passing on and such like that. And one tidbit that I did not know, and actually I have to pride myself in knowing a lot about New York State and New York City. Our oyster
is from Staten Island.
No clue. No clue. So Gabby, all the ladies, when we take our trip over to Bed-Stuy, when we go visit LaToya in her new place, let's go find the oyster man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before we get up in there, like
that was amazing.
Want some of this? Yes,
that was amazing.
I want
that
some
was
of
definitely amazing. I knew nothing about that, and I want that suit too.
And fun thing, it's weird that he was saying that when people walking by, because I would have been that person that he would have been like, "You ever tried an oyster?" And I'm like, "Ew." He'd be like, "Have you had one?" Because I've never had one. It's something that's never made me want ever. So I would be a newbie to it, and that made me want to try it. But I'm like, you know what? I would give it a shot.
He brought up such a really good point that I didn't. He's like, "Yo, black folk, we know about crabs, we know about lobster, we know about fish, we don't know about oysters, and we run from that."
Right.
I don't.
I don't. I never had him here.
From no food.
I never had him here. I never had him here. The first.
He probably would have saw me coming down the street and was like, "Nope, she look like she gonna want more than one." I ain't.
But see, I never had an oyster here. The first oyster I had, I think I was in Maryland.
Okay.
The harbor. That was the first.
And to know there's a guy like that right under your nose, right around the corner.
And he's a down brother, as you can see. And it's like, we can do whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter who you belong to, where you came from, or where you are. It's a matter of where you're going. And if that's what you want to do, you could get there. Like if we might backpedal for a split second, because it ties in Hitsville, when Barry Gordy was saying like the group that had to go through the most makeovers and the most challenges was the Supremes. And I could see that, where it's like, ladies, you must be just so. You must be like molding them to be prepared for all the encounters that they knew were coming. So when you meet the queen, which I wondered, did Diane bow? Diana Ross, did you bow when you met the queen? Did you? I'm just curious. Did she? But you get the point I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So to see that, and she was like, "Yo, it doesn't matter where you are; it's about where you're going. I don't care." The lady who was the equity coach, she's like, "I don't care where you came from. I don't care where you are. It's about where you're going."
That lady had me cracking up. I'm like, she made some good cornbread. Just
you're hungry stuff.
So to see him with his cart just right there in Bed-Stuy, where he grew, because he's like, "Why'd you do it here?" He goes, "This is where I'm from, and I'm just showing my people to expose them." Now, like you said, little kids who might run from that, honey. This is part of our history. The folks that, first of all, I never would have dreamed that black folks actually lived on Staten Island. Let alone had that much history in Staten Island.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Gabby, you did watch it? Did you watch it?
I watched it. I enjoyed it, and I was like, I definitely have to give my piece. So breaking down from the episodes as much, I'm gonna do as much as I can. Episode 1, our roots. The beginning of all knowledge, I always say understanding as well as understanding is the knowledge of self, in which many of our people, we do not have that essence of knowing who we are. So watching this first episode, taking the trip back, this black man, this African-American man, taking the trip back to Benin in Africa, which majority of, with the slave trade, basically took upon the west coast of Africa. So a lot of your ancestry will come along that route, whether it's from Ghana or Benin or even I think it's Libya that's along there, Nigeria, the Europe. That episode 1 was amazing. For him to go back and just seeing the market and how it goes. And for me, it speaks volumes too, because I am from a Afro-Caribbean descendants. My parents are from Jamaica, and been to Jamaica from I'm small, in the womb, as a toddler, as a baby, even adult stage, you go to Jamaica and it's the same essence of when you go into the market field, the people them hold the basket on top of their head and they walk barefoot and that essence of community. And even so, just the aspect of your Africanness is still there, because the food that we eat, we say rice and peas, and you eat the cassava and your yam and you boil it, and just that story alone was just like, oh my gosh, my heart was just lighting up. And the part where he even took it to the trying to get emotional, but going back,
you can't help but get emotional watching.
Yeah. Yeah, and I literally, when he broke down, I was like, tears were just flowing. Ooh. Because I'm like, people tend to think that our history started with slavery, but we had history before slavery.
Yeah.
We had history before. So just seeing that, and the people, like, it's a journey. Imagine that, the walk, when they showing you the line from the people was walking, and I was just like, you don't know where you're going.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but to know that they took that walk and they took that journey, and to know the people that we have here, some of us are straight descendants from those who took that walk. I do believe there are also the indigenous blacks that were already here in America. Thus, when they talk about the Native Americans, how if you read certain stories, even especially in Florida, when it comes to the Seminoles, I actually remember reading a story where the Europeans, they were like, oh, we couldn't tell the difference between the Native Americans and the Africans that we took. And it's actually written, like, a story of Ponce de Leon, on his quest to find the youth of them. Like, he would say how the Seminoles, the Native Indians that was here in America, they couldn't tell the part. So that's to let you know that melanated beings been around for, beginning of time. But episode 1, Our Roots, was very much on point. Episode 2, when it talks about the Rice Kingdom, we always talk about rice thinking it's an Asian thing, but honey, we was working that rice from how long? And to know, I didn't even know that extra Carolina gold rice that you see in the store came from North Carolina.
Yeah.
So you know what it is? And just the story behind that was like, wow, and the Gullah people of the Carolina, the Gullahs, and even their dialect, when I would listen, I was like, wow, they sound like some of my Caribbean folks.
Yeah.
The Gullah people. And it just goes to show you again, like, a lot of us, no matter where you're from, whether you have people that's from Haiti, Haiti, or even, folks from Guyana, like, the Afro-ness that we carry, it's all similarity.
Everywhere.
We just call it different names, from Trinidad, from just the different Caribbean islands, Antigua, like, even in Jamaica, there's a dish that the guy was showing, and he wrap, like, it's in a leaf and they wrap it. We actually call that something. We call it, I think it's called blue draws or dunkanu or something like that. But it's the same thing. I can wrap the corn, like a piece of the corn thing, and they wrap it. And
it's the huge leaf wrap that they had on the table.
Okay. Yes, and that's the same thing. But it's coming from that ancestry. Like, it's all there and it's mental. So again, from the founder chefs, knowing the story of, with George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, the slavery, we brought our culture with us. And even though, they might try to make you forget, these are things that are still embedded into us. And of course, with June 19th, this touch bases on the story of freedom. It's great that this year it was acknowledged as a federal holiday, but there are many of us who's been acknowledging this day from from the past, and even trying to instill it into our younger generations. So, freedom, and even this touching story, my heart fell with the young lady who was in Brooklyn and she moved back home to be with her family and help raise, and how the land was going to be taken away by eminent domain or something like that. Now I was just like, wow, imagine that. All these years, this is your family land, and now they have to move. This is the only thing they know, and we still do, like, the mentality that still is happening today to our people.
And my first question on that was, how come that area is not a historical
it should be
landmark?
Landmark, because it should be. It definitely qualifies.
Yep.
But look who lives there. How many
times
developed beautiful communities and plots of land where they've just come and taken it or bulldozed it.
And remember, even
and giving us nothing for
it. Like, again, we always make something out of nothing. Understand? Even the parts that the so-called parts that the slave owners didn't want, and the leftover, we made something out of it till now. The guy was explaining that a piece of the meat or something like that, now that costs how much money that costs now, but that was something that they didn't want. And because we took it and we made it into something and nurture, you put your own flavor into it. Even the grounds, with something unbearable, we know how to work the grounds to make it to where it still ends up bearing whatever or natural elements that come from it. So again, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. I enjoyed it. I look forward that this young man has another documentary coming out. I was here for it. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I would recommend folks to watch it of all races. But again, it just goes to, we can't continue to, try to cover up history. No, this is history. American history is African history, because majority of our what they know and how they establishing themselves, it came from us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let the choir say amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
Oh, just so the film was produced by Roger Ross Williams, director, and the guy Steven Satterfield was just the host. But he did a great job.
He did an amazing job.
He did a great job. Beautiful job.
I have to give a 5. Go ahead, Trisha. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to just give it a 5 and really second the emotion of everything y'all said. Like, I'm all here for it. I think, and I gave it such a when I watched it, because couple of things. One, I think it's been about maybe 5 years now that I did my ancestry and found out, about my Nigerian roots and my roots from Benin, which I don't know anything about that, which has always been a big thing with me being labeled as African American, because it makes you just, I know I lost something along the way. We all have. And it's like, what is that? What have we lost? And I've always kind of been searching for it, looking for it in like big amounts, trying to go all the way back to Africa and exactly where is my village, not realizing that literally when my grandmother taught me how to make grits and greens and okra and gumbo and all of these things, that she was passing on something that I've been looking for. Her mother taught her that, and her mother taught her that. And even with my Native American background, all of that stuff just combined in one. There was a history there the whole time where I'm just seeing them teach me something, not knowing they're teaching me the roots of what was taught to them when they literally had nothing, came from nothing, and just really was basically teaching me how to survive. And I'm just looking at it as something to put on my plate. I mean, I remember, learning how to snap, beans with my grandmother, and learning how to wash collard greens and the difference between the turnip and the mustard and the green. My grandmother knew how to grow anything. And it was just things that I just never thought about. This was something that was passed down from her. So watching this, my heart was aching. Me and my grandmother were really close. And I always, like, when I talk about her, I just feel, because, I mean, she was an epitome of learning where you didn't even know she was teaching. I mean, and that's just something I think a lot of us, we pay attention as Black people, that, our family, you can get something, what they're giving us was given to them by somebody else who gave it to them. So it really was passed down, and to hold on to that heritage. And then now it makes me kind of slap myself, because my girls don't know how to make homemade collard greens. I didn't teach them that. And by me doing that, I'm giving them a disservice of something that was taught to me. And I didn't realize that, the importance of it. So I think, with me now knowing that consciousness to be more verbal, you're passing down more than just something on a plate. It's passing down a whole history. When you brought up the rice, I did know they, our ancestors, they would hide the seeds in their braids in their hair. So when they came over, they would be able to plant them, just things like that, to be able to still, cook and survive and thrive and eat what we were familiar to, because we were in such a place of unfamiliarity. And I think sometimes I still feel that, being unfamiliar here, because we're every day fighting for a place here. And I realized that through food, through what they showed us with the things that we eat, especially the okra. Okra is big. I mean, I'm from the South. I was raised in the South. So
big in the Caribbean too.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. Yeah, and like learning how to make a roof for gumbo, that was like, you ain't doing it right. So it's like, okay, you don't think about that, but that's such a huge thing. And it's just like, okay, they brought light to something that I literally think I was taking for granted. I know I was taking it for granted. It surprised me that Black people, or should I say our ancestors, and even our Native American ancestors, had to teach these white people how to eat. They took them, you can't feed, what were you eating? I told my daughter watched it with me. I'm like, my mother said bread. I guess they were just eating bread. Like,
bread and cheese and wine, yes.
Because they didn't know. I mean, the Native Americans, they came
how
over.
to bathe. We had to teach them hygiene.
We even did wine too. That plum wine looked like it was doing something things. Even
Uncle
wine.
When Uncle gave her that jug, it was like,
it was like,
what's in that jug?
I know. I was about it.
You know
and
what
I was thinking, But what really I think stuck out to me, besides everything, because of course, like you, like I was emotional, especially with that long walk, like you said, Gabby, when they showed that from the aerial vision of him walking down that road, knowing that I just literally, I was like gripping myself, thinking of trying to imagine the thousands of Black people that walk that road, not knowing where they're going, being ripped away from their family. That was worth almost the whole 4 episodes. It was worth. But what really, by me being, I love to cook, and by me cooking all the time, and my cooking, I always used to tell people that Southern food was what I cooked the least, because it was kind of my least, I won't say favorite thing, but it's what I feel like I didn't know all the ins and outs about. When they showed the fancy restaurant at the end, the woman who wrote the book, I can't remember her name right now off the top of my head, but she wrote that book, and they were eating like kings and queens, and that guy was like cooking up our original food, but making it something that's 5-star Michelin type chef stuff. I was like, we hold no bounds. There is no bounds to, like, we literally, there, I just realized, like, we already blow my mind of the things that we can do, but no bounds. You can take this Southern food, and he made magic. I gotta go eat there. Like, I gotta go buy her. Now I'm like, I'm gonna buy her book. I have to know how to. I am, because like I said, church, you know, I love to cook. Like that
was the grandson of the lady that had.
Yes.
Yes.
And she got to be smiling down from heaven, because he was. Oh my God. And I say, so, you know, it doesn't have to look like a bowl of grits. It doesn't have to look like, you know, just a plate of greens. It doesn't have to look like a slab of cornbread. Yeah, it looks good when it looks like that. But he was like, I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna make it look like this. And to see the magic of what he did by taking our original ingredients, and you got those people in there thinking, I mean, just the looks on their faces when they were eating, that's love. Like, it was just so much. I was like, there's too much to unpack from watching these 4 episodes. That should have been 10 episodes, not the Magic Johnson one.
I was thinking that too. Like, how much you gonna cram in an hour, dude? Like,
it was only 4, but it was. I think I was wanting more, but at the same time, I'm glad that he cut it. He directed it the way he did, because it was 4 strong. Like,
I mean, literally
4 strong versions of one story. But you still you walked away the way you felt in the beginning. You still had that same feeling at the end.
Had
of each and every one. So I think it was a good call, him having it. I'm sure he can do it again.
They need to.
There's so much more to tell, and not for nothing. We like you were saying, Ro. There's stuff that got lost along the way. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? A lot of us stop cooking from scratch a lot of things because it's harder. But we also don't have a lot of time, but I feel like we have to go back to certain things.
We do.
And please teach your daughters when you get a chance, because me doing the greens, I had to do it on my own. You don't want them having to go to YouTube for tips.
Daughters. We got to teach our males too.
We do. You're right.
But I meant,
period.
Male and female.
Right, children, right. You know, you're absolutely right. I should have said that you should teach your children, but you emphasized earlier that your girls don't know how to cook.
My daughters, because I can remember my ancestors it was the women mostly who they would take in the kitchen and show how to do certain things and teach how to do these things. And these recipes, like, you know, my ex-husband's mother-in-law, she was like from a place in Alabama that I didn't even know existed until we got married, like back in the woods. And they grew their food and they ate everything from scratch. They were killing hogs and chickens. I mean, she was like the real deal on that. And I could remember watching her cook and thinking to her daughters, because she had 7 kids, do any of you know how to make any of this stuff? And none of them did. And I said, you know, when she passed, it's gone. Like, it's gone. And one thing she made was dressing. I loved her dressing every Thanksgiving, and I made it my business to do everything I can to mimic that. And I remember one time I cooked after she had passed, and I asked my ex-husband, he came over and I said, tell me it's close. And he was like, this is like as close as it's going to get. And that just was, and I remember the pride in feeling that, because she's gone, and none of it's gone. Whatever she did is over, and nobody wants to continue that. The importance of that. So this series just reminded me the importance of that, because it's just so much. They were literally dying, and when they said they were refusing to eat because they were trying to feed them things that they didn't even.
Yeah. So they made a cuisine out of it,
out of it. I mean, oh my God.
They're being ordered to make your slave master's food, and then being ordered not to eat after eating me.
Yes. That's crazy.
The mental, the slavery was definitely physical. It was, but it
was so mental.
Right. It was so, and here it was. Sometimes I think about it where it's more. I would argue that it was more mental now, that they got into our heads a lot earlier. But you mind you. Watch my language, but yes, you.
It's on YouTube, girl. Go ahead.
Fine. You definitely mind fuck the shit out of our ancestors.
Yes.
that, but you did it to us, but we didn't see it coming when
Right.
it did, when you did. Like, for
Right.
instance, I was telling one of my cousins when it came down to like our music, going back to Hitsville for a certain thing. I have a friend who argues that NWA was the beginning of the destroying of hip hop. I totally disagree because they were telling their story how they saw it. But when it changed, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna pay you X amount of dollars. All I need you to do is say such and such and such. Wait a minute, you gonna pay me how much? And you just want me to go on a song and see blah 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 blah. Yeah, where do I sign? 25 years later, what the hell did I do?
Right.
All you saw was the money to get your mother out of the hood, to get her a
Right.
house, to give your family a better life, et cetera, not knowing what the outcomes would be down the line. We didn't, that's what I'm saying. They got us early. They got us early, not realizing, well, we didn't see ahead of time what was coming. All we saw was the dollars in front of us to help improve our lives at the time.
Yeah.
Now, the destruction that came later, that's why I was like, they got into our minds, and they got into our minds earlier. Like, it seems like they grabbed us as children, as teenagers, before we got into adulthood to really think and foresee what was going to come.
Like you say, mind fuck all the way around. Yeah.
To the T.
So okay, this film that I want to talk about wasn't on the list. It actually was a last minute add on. When I was deciding on the films or to do this film, was on the list, but I didn't know how to fit it in. Besides, in today's, I'm talking about documentaries on our heroes, on our icons' lives. But I decided just to mention it because I just my gut just keep coming back to it. Tina on HBO.
Yes.
On HBO Max. I'm labeling this an honorable mention. I watched Tina and then I watched it again. And the reason why I watched it again because another friend of mine who watched it, we were having this back and forth of details, and I just felt very protective of Miss Tina. I feel this woman's story has been told in every form possible. So for anyone to doubt her journey or her mindset, or I just feel like it's an injustice to her and what she went through. She's the queen of perseverance to me. He make me nervous now. I loved watching. I love being reminded that at the end of the day, she was still in tune of what she wanted out of herself. It hurted me to know for so long she didn't feel loved, even though the world loved her. She believed that we couldn't see the beauty in her until Edwin came. And I thank God for that man. I thank God for his patience. I thank God for his faith and love, because I feel like he saved her. He saved her. I wish she could hire me for security, because if I was on that red carpet and anybody asks about Ike, I will shove some cake down their mouth. I know I will. You won't be asking about Ike around her when I'm present. Like, I get why she wrote what? She did the People interview. That's in? What do you need? Okay, good. She did the People's interview. She did a book. She did a movie, a Broadway musical, and a documentary.
I don't think that's word.
Okay, thank you. And a documentary. Why people still asking about Ike?
Yep.
Listen, down to Oprah. I don't know if you saw, she was on Oprah's Next Chapter shortly after her and Edwin got married. Because they had been together for many years, but they hadn't gotten married. So finally she got married, and Oprah asked her to come on the Next Chapter. On her honeymoon.
But
by the way, yes.
If Roe was to ask me to do that on my honeymoon, I mean, because she asked, yeah. But that's like somebody.
But it was funny she said it. But it's funny because she said it. She was like, only Oprah can pull you out of retirement and get an interview while you're on your honeymoon.
Yeah.
So and they had it all set up. But she had asked her about Ike, and she spoke about it, et cetera. When she got Edwin on, she said to him, like, when I asked her about that, you got real, upset or what have you. He goes, that's her past. Now, granted, they were part musically, they worked together. So I know at some point, you're going to bring that up. He goes, but it angers me when people bring that up, because at this point, she's been with me longer than she's been with Ike.
Yeah.
So what? Like that's done. And on top of that, when people would bring it up in interviews, I saw she did one. It was either with Larry King or somebody else on CNN, and they had brought that up. And then she was even like, "Well, why y'all asking me about Ike? Do y'all ask him about me? Because he's been married twice already since we've been divorced."
Exactly.
And
if you notice who, I don't want to say that because I love Oprah, but because I know I love Oprah. But I will say I understand why Edwin said that. He helped her move past that in a way that no one else could. You know, he had to have been some type of angel touched person to go past all the hurt and pain and insecurities that she have had along the way, installed in her, concreted even. He had to have the patience of Job to get through all of that and still get her to hear him say, I see you, and I see you, and I love you still. So, yes, if someone was to keep reminding her of such a traumatic time of her life, I too would be upset about it too. You know, over and over and over, knowing what I had to do for her not to move past that. You know, so I totally agree with him, and I understand where he was coming with that from that. But again, the woman did all of these things in that order: the interview, the book, the movie, the musical, and the documentary. There should be no more curiosity about her ex-husband. None.
Okay.
And come to find out that she said in an interview that the movie didn't even do justice
didn't
to what was happening on an everyday basis.
Right.
So she endured it even a lot more than what we saw on the big screen.
Right, and that was just in 2 hours. You know, they had to tell this whole story in 2 hours. So the movie itself served a purpose visually because people that didn't read the book got it.
Right.
You know, it got it. It did open up a lot of conversations. But then to like over and over and over, how is it? Why is it? How is it not unfair? How is it fair to her to have to keep answering the same questions that she's been answering over and over and over? I feel like it's at this point in time, it's a dig. It's to hurt. Like there should be no reason why you need to ask about how you doing. Why? There's no reason.
Right.
There's nothing out of that for you to ask about that. To ask about him. Because if it is, then you don't need your job.
Yeah.
Well, in her case, yes, definitely, I get that. Well, as you were saying, that something did come to mind that I had a big question that I'm sure everybody knows about that they touched upon, but I wanted more in Hitsville, which was the situation between Barry and Diana. Because if you notice, they didn't have a recent interview with Diana. They only had footage from previous interviews that she did. So what's the matter, Diana? You didn't want to do this interview? Why? You didn't want to speak on the background between you and Barry? Like, you guys weren't the only love triangle on...
True. Well, we know their love story. It's called Dream Girls. It's called Dream Girls. We know their story.
But see,
and
somebody passed away, didn't she? She never made a comeback, from what I understand. She passed away destitute, didn't she?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So right, Dream Girls wasn't even a real. And her and no, it's not, because Barry Gordy did not marry her.
I know. I'm just saying. I was just playing.
And since you want to bring up Dream Girls, one emphasis that I want to do going back to Tina was that, and don't send the beehive after me, okay? I'm just saying. Beyonce wasn't the first one to be dancing her ass off on the stage with heels on, okay? There was a woman who was doing it way before her.
The queen of rock and roll, Miss Tina Turner.
Hello,
the queen of rock and roll.
Beyonce has given her honor to Tina more than one time.
She has.
Yeah, she has definitely tipped her hat off and said, yes, this is one of my idols. And
hey, can we let Gen Z know that? I'm just saying.
Right?
I'm just saying.
Like I said, they don't really know. They don't really know.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. But that woman deserved every flower planted. She, I just feel, I'm glad that she had so much input in this documentary. God, I'm so glad for that.
I need to watch it. I haven't seen it.
So it was.
It's worth the watch. It's definitely worth the watch.
It was like the people's interview, and then watching the documentary was what all you needed to know. All you needed to experience this woman's story, because it was from her directly. And I love that she was being honest about her feelings. You know, she wasn't trying to like sugarcoat or try. No, she was doing that for the TV interviews along the way, as we saw.
Right.
But for this documentary, it was and this is where I went through,
straight from the source.
and this is how I felt at the time, and this is what such and such a did. You know what I'm saying? I love that it was coming from her. Loved it.
Now, ladies, help me out with this a little bit, because like I know that society likes to put Black folks in niches, but for the most part, I think we are a pretty eclectic group. So when she went rock, and lost the majority of her black audience. My question was, why? I didn't understand that. My mother used to clean to her. She would put on Tina's albums and just be playing all day while we were cleaning the household. She was a fragment in our household. So even when she went rock, so when they talk about, she lost a portion of her black audience when her sound started to change, why is that? I'm very curious about that.
My question on that is, when did she come? I always heard her as rock. Like to me, she's that's all she was to me. It wasn't no trend. What changed was the faces in her audience. That's what changed, But I don't think she stopped doing one or the other. She was always doing rock.
And that's what I'm saying, because even when she was like Tina Turner, Ike was the epitome of rock at the time. He started it.
It was
but granted,
just the
rock
faces in the audience, the ticket purchasers changed.
Right, but then the sound of rock had changed between the 50s and the 90s.
Yeah,
it did.
It
became
more metal.
I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
Yeah,
I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
Yeah, heavy metal. Yeah.
And maybe that wasn't the type of rock that she was doing. It certainly wasn't the type of rock that she was doing. But like you said, those were still people in her audience.
And then the fact it was being done by a black woman played a part in that.
But she gained them, but lost us. Why?
Because we don't. Because we know
I'm
better.
let y'all keep y'all conversation. I have to get off because is it too late?
Oh yeah, we gotta end this anyway.
I have something somewhere I gotta be, but no, it's been. Y'all keep on talking about Tina. I'm gonna watch it. Let me see. Can I see your outfit one more time? Just. I gotta have it. I love it so much.
Wait, let me end the show in its entirety. Okay, so that's the end of the show. I want to thank Roe, Gabby, Jessica for joining me again today. If you agree with everything that we shared, you know what? Let everybody know on YouTube. Don't email me directly. Don't message me directly. I think I made the mistake.
In the comments.
Put a comment.
Yeah.
Cause y'all really.
The
I'm glad you're watching it and have input. Trust me, I am grateful. But let everybody know what you're saying to me too. Like I'm just saying.
We want to know.
We want to know.
Yes, I would like to know.
Right. Be sure to follow Roe, Jessica, and Gabby on their social media platforms listed, and don't forget to like Women Are Talking on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and tell a friend about the conversation. Until then, be safe, be smart, and thank you for your time.
Bye.
In New York City like a tourist, but on the low I'm a foreigner, coming out them stores in